I'm always going to turn to self-compassion now. I want to always be reminded I'm a human humaning with other humans. I mean, we're all here to learn. That has to be applied in my experience. It's not about getting rid of the critic. For me, the idea I think about is like befriending it. Like, just getting to know it. What's your motivation here? What are you trying to get me to do?
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, what are you trying to say?
Welcome to the Feel Good Club podcast. This is the place where ambitious working moms learn how to elevate their well-being, increase success in all areas, and create a positive, aligned life. Whether you're here to hear expert interviews or inspiring talks, this is your space to learn and grow. I'm Tia Graham, keynote and TED speaker, best-selling author, and founder of the Feel Good Club community for high-achieving moms. I am an expert in the science of happiness. This show is here to help you feel grounded, happier, and connected to yourself and others. I know you are going to love it. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in.
Hi, Stacy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tia. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I cannot wait to dig into this very important topic of our inner critic. How come this topic and how come writing about and speaking about our inner critic is so important to you?
Yeah, the inner critic, well, listen, it's a borderline obsession for me. I grew up thinking I had the loudest and most annoying inner critic ever. I didn't really know how to name it. I didn't really know how to explain it. I didn't have the language for sharing it with my mom or my friends. And biggest of all, probably, especially at the age of 13, is I felt like I was all alone. Like I felt like no one else had this inner critic, this voice that questioned things I did or really compared my body to everyone else. And I was, in middle school, I was the young woman who had a different body than everybody else. I always say like I was living middle school before we had flat irons and all the good hair tools. So I was just walking around a frisbee all day, feeling uncomfortable in my everything.
Yeah.
Um, and you fast forward a few years, like it kept getting louder and it kept getting more. And the more experiences I had, the more I compared myself or the more I questioned myself. And I always like I had this beautiful, foundation at my house. I had an awesome mom who really worked hard to build me up and help me see different. And of course those things helped, but the good foundation of a mom, but the inner critic, what got louder, the
And
inner
and
critic.
peers, I'm thinking just peers in
Yes.
society.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the inner critic kept winning. And then fast forward to like, one of my first professional experiences, I get to become, a representative of the Dove's Real Beauty campaign, and I get to kind of see the other side. So then I'm part of this big campaign where we are helping women debunk the stereotype of what should be
A
looking like,
woman.
what women should be looking like, right?
Right.
Then I got to hear women's stories and I got to see that I wasn't alone. I'm not the only one with a loud inner critic. I'm not the only one worried about my body or comparing myself. And that's when I became really obsessed. And I realized so many women are allowing, including myself, of course, at that time, and still to this day, we're all human, letting that inner critic get in the way of what I really wanted to go create and
Hmm.
who I really wanted to be. And so then
Hmm.
I had to talk about it once I figured that out.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting that you said the inner critic was getting in the way of you living authentically and like fearless and confident. Um, for me, over the last I would say decade or so, the inner critic was louder around motherhood and around like parenting. And yes, I can definitely relate on the confidence piece, but it really robbed me of a lot of just like joy and presence.
Mm.
And I've had, I've done a lot of healing and I understood kind of where that inner critic started. And it's kind of around age 6. And, won't go into all that, but um, I think being aware of what it's taking from us when you give it a lot of power is really, really important. And there's probably so many things. So again, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, what is the first step? I want to hear you explain about this kind of like where and when of the inner critic showing up. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. It's like all the women, I mean, I'm going to be bold and I think I'm going to say all the women I work with are running through the world. And we are all living that way, right? We're all living in a very fast-paced environment. We have a lot on our plate. We all are wearing lots of hats, have lots of roles.
Dealing with lots of technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it to me, it's really it's kind of an act of rebellion, right? It's kind of this really beautiful gift to give yourself to slow down. And so when I ask women to identify the where and the when, like when is the inner critic getting the loudest? Where? What environments are you in when it's getting the loudest and most annoying for you? To me, it's simply a practice of slowing down. Again, we're so used to that inner critic. We're so used to that voice. We're just kind of powering through it. We're just kind of going anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like, what a gift to give ourselves to stop and be a little bit more intentional with that voice. And
Hmm.
so I ask women all the time, like where and when. So is it in the fitting room, right? When you're getting ready for bathing suit season or a vacation or something like that? Is it when you're about to give a presentation at work? When you're about to have an uncomfortable conversation with a colleague? Like when does that inner critic seem to get the loudest? And
Hmm.
giving yourself kind of that understanding and awareness
Hmm.
pause more often through your days to apply some tools and some ideas on how to kind of quiet that inner critic and not let it run the show.
So good. Immediately I thought of, oh, mine will pop up if I'm working and one of my kids or both my kids are downstairs with my nanny. Because I'm like in the same house, but I'm choosing to work. And even though, it's my choice and it's the right choice for me, but like that's aware. So what would you say to someone listening who feels like when and where, like Stacy, this is running all the time, like a ticker tape or like, that it's just humming in the background. I am hard on myself always. I'm like a high achiever, I'm perfectionist, I want to do well. And this is how it's always been. What would you say? What advice would you say about, yeah, just feeling like it's always.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, you're not alone, right? Like it's certainly not an uncommon story, unfortunately. And so when we talk about kind of the ways to shift away from this inner critic, and in fact, I'm even going to correct myself because it's really not about, I always tell everyone I work with, like, it's not about getting rid of the critic. Right? The critic is the ego part of the brain. It's actually trying to help us. It's
Yeah.
trying to keep us safe. It has its own thing. And like, we won't go completely down that road, but it's like it thinks it's running a purpose. So it's really not about completely getting rid of it. For me, the idea I think about is like befriending it. Like, just getting to know it. What's your motivation here? What are you trying to get me to do?
What are you
Right?
trying to say?
Yeah, what are you trying to say? So for me, it's like as we kind of go through the how to befriend this critic, if it feels like it's running all of the time, number one, give yourself the gift of slowing down just for a minute,
Hmm.
just in this podcast right now.
Hmm.
Take a breath or two and think like, what are the first few ideas or spaces that come to mind? Because even just now when we were talking, you were able to differentiate like, oh wow, there's an example. When I'm working, my nanny's downstairs, that's
Yeah,
one.
I can hear the
Great.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So great. Just pick a few scenarios and practice some of the things we're going to talk about, some of the tools, just with those few scenarios.
Hmm.
Because when you start to practice this and put it into your actual routine with these scenarios, you're going to see other places you can apply the tools as well.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So, and the slowing down, we can do this with just being quiet, with meditating, with journaling. I'm a big proponent of, working with a coach or investing in therapy, like, whatever you need. So it could be writing, talking, silence, but taking that space to get curious. And it sounds like just non-judgmental, like where, when, how, what's going on, and kind of separating yourself from it a little bit.
Yes.
So when we've done that, oh, have we talked about the fact checking piece?
So let's go into like kind of, yeah, let's talk about the fact checking because, right, that's kind of the next step in my mind,
Right,
right?
right.
As I'm giving myself this space, and I think you so beautifully gave so many great examples of how we can slow down. So we're giving ourselves that space. We're getting some separation from the ego. Exactly. We're starting to see more of what it's doing. So essentially, we're getting away from autopilot. We're taking a look at some of these thoughts, some of these places this inner critic comes up. Well, then I want to get gently curious about these thoughts. Like, is it true? And am I sure that's true? And a question I like to ask all the time is like, what is the ego actually afraid of here? That's a
What is
question
the
I'll ask.
ego
Yeah.
actually
What
afraid
is
of?
the ego actually afraid of? And you can interchangeably use inner critic. It's like, what is it? What am I actually scared of here?
Yeah,
What's underneath this?
right.
So to give a quick example, it's like I used to really work like I used to have people encourage me to post things online or social media or whatever, and I'd feel really weird and vulnerable about it. And then people would laugh at me like, "You've been in a billboard on your underwear. What do you feel vulnerable about sharing your opinion on a post?" But yeah, I do, and I
Yeah,
did. I still do.
yeah,
It feels different for me.
yeah.
So I bring that up because when I asked, okay, like what I'm fact checking, like, so what is the ego telling me? Oh gosh, someone could hate what you have to say. You could get a bunch of criticism. You could get a bunch of negative comments. And here's my worst one. You could hurt someone or offend somebody by what you say. That would always be the like, ooh, that hit.
Yeah.
And notice when you're asking these questions where you feel it in your body, because your body will tell you. You'll know, right? Like your body will be like, ooh, that's the one. Like you'll feel it. Yeah.
Where that like fear is, yeah, where it's sitting.
For me, it shows up in my stomach. It could show up in your chest, or like
Yeah.
you're gonna probably notice. And that's good feedback for you to understand. So it's like, oh, what's the ego really afraid of? Oh, the ego's afraid if I take up space, I might hurt someone.
Mm.
Got it.
Okay, so can I give you I want to give you mine
Yes,
of
yes.
what the ego, I want to hear because they feel like, especially for my members, this is one that comes up consistently,
Sure.
is you are working, whether kids or not, right? With the nanny at after school care with grandma, whatever, and you're working and there's a guilt that comes up,
Mm.
inner critic of, oh, should you be with your kids more? Are you with your kids enough? Are you a good enough mom? Are you a bad mom? Are you selfish choosing work? So what's the question you ask about the ego? Say it again
Like,
because it's
what's
really
the ego
powerful.
really afraid of? So if all those
What is
things
the
were
ego
true,
really afraid of?
if you were really a bad mom, if you were really not spending enough time with your kids, what would that mean? What would the ego make that mean? What's the story the ego's running?
That you are not a good mom,
Mm.
that you are not good enough, that you are not, I don't know, worthy is what comes up, or valuable, or yeah,
Yep. So it's like, then I'm going to offer, like, is that really true?
yeah,
Do I offer zero value to my children?
right.
And if we're
No,
pausing for a second, obviously no,
no,
right?
like obviously I'm going to see them in an hour and right, right.
Yes, exactly. And then like if you go back to my example just for a second, because I think it's important to show two scenarios here. It's like, is it true that me taking up space is going to hurt someone? Well, not necessarily, and
Right.
certainly not if I'm offering something from my heart. Like if I'm pouring something I really care about out, my opinion or whatever out there, and it serves someone, well, then actually the opposite could be true. So where I start to go then is if my brain can take me to all these like fears and what ifs, then my brain can also identify some possibilities and some truths.
Let's take a quick pause for something that can really support you. If you constantly question if you are good enough as a working mom and desperately want to feel happier, I'd love to invite you to a complimentary discovery call with me. In 45 minutes, we'll get clear on what is out of alignment, what you want your days to feel like, and 2 to 3 simple changes you can make immediately to feel calmer and more confident. It's completely free, and it's a chance for us to connect and see if the Feel Good Club for working moms or one-on-one coaching might support you. To grab a spot, go to tiagraham.com/discovery call. That's tiagraham.com/discovery call, and pick a time that works for you. Stacy, I think it's your heart taking you to the possibilities and truths.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's at any moment, I love this so much. It's at any moment going, it's like sliding doors, of like, yeah, I can let myself do this, or I can choose to think and believe this.
Exactly. And
And
if
believing in both our examples, it's like believing in our goodness, believing in our true nature.
and to have the truth, right? The truth
And
of who
truth.
we all are. Like our
Yeah.
authentic expression is love, is goodness, is all these things. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yes. How does self-compassion come into interacting with your inner critic?
Yeah. So for me, it's like every transformation I've ever experienced in my life, which gosh, at this point is a laundry list, right?
Yeah,
Because I think we're similar in this space, Tio, where it's like I'm on this like self-healing journey for life, right? I know I'm not getting off at this point.
totally.
Keep moving that
I'm going
way,
to be
right?
80, being like, oh, lesson. Yep, that was a lesson I haven't learned yet.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so why I say that is because if I come from that frame of reference, then I've decided, looking back on my life's curriculums thus far, I've never created real transformation or sustainable transformation from listening to the inner critic, from beating myself up,
Yeah.
from going harder, faster, doing more. I've never created real transformation from that space. I've always created it from self-compassion. And so when the aftermath of thoughts come, when the experiences happen in my brain, when the ego is getting loud, that inner critic is getting annoying, I'm always going to turn to self-compassion now
Hmm.
because I want to always be reminded I'm a human humaning with other humans. I mean, that's we're all here to learn. So that has to be applied in my experience
Yeah.
because without that, I'm not getting anywhere. In fact, typically, before I was really working with self-compassion and applying it, I would just kind of stay in that inner critic loop because it would
Ruminate.
just kind of keep me over in that space. And self-compassion is the thing that kind of broke that cycle for me and gave me a different perspective.
I couldn't agree more. Everyone listening, if you haven't read the book Self-Compassion by Dr. Kristen Neff, highly recommend it. There's also a workbook. Her meditations are also incredible. The parts of self-compassion that I've used and that have been so helpful in my parenting journey, especially with a an autistic child, is talking to myself with kindness and this piece of common humanity where I will literally, in hard moments, close my eyes and picture all the other moms around the globe that are having challenges with their autistic children. And I know there's millions. And I visualize almost this like invisible thread of
Mm,
like, we're all together. This is hard together. And we're not doing anything wrong. And
mm,
that dual practice of talking to myself kindly and then thinking of what Kristen says, common humanity, has been like life-saving. So yeah, I think and knowing that this is not like an easy, like, oh, instead of being hard on yourself, be self-compassionate. This is new neural pathways, right? Like this takes practice. This I've been doing this for like 4 years and it's like, but it's something we also can teach model to our kids. I try and do that.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, it's so much practice. I'm just going to
yeah,
rehighlight that.
yeah.
So much
Like
practice.
daily, yes.
Yes,
Of
yes.
changing how you talk to yourself and changing
Yep.
what you listen to.
Yes, and what you absolutely and what you're surrounding yourself with at any given moment, right? And I'll say this too. It's like I've had moments where I'm like, and oh gosh, I've had more than I can count where I'm like, okay, I got this. I'm really in this self-compassion. I'm really on this like groove, right? Something that will feel really big will occur, and I'm like, crap, I'm going all the way back to like being very self-deprecating and how could I have let this happen? And oh, I'm smarter than this and all the thoughts. So I offer that idea because
Yeah.
it's like we haven't lost self-compassion. It's still there. It's gonna take a lot of practice. So
Yes.
practice. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I will say, because my inner critic and like these are deep neural pathways, especially as it relates to motherhood. So I also ask for support, right? So I will like, I've like trained my great husband. Like he will be like, "You're such a good mom." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks." Like, because he knows how self-critical I am. And I also will say stuff out loud. Like I'll be cooking and the kids are fighting and da 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 this, and I'll just like announce it because I'm like, universe and kids, I'll be like, wow, I'm a good mom. Wow, guys, like you have a great mom. And I never would have said that 5 years ago, 7 years ago, eight. So, whether it's support and also just like reminders, like if you need physical reminders in your environment,
Yep.
whatever you're most, like you said, like if it's about being taking up too much space or the guilt around missing your kids' lives or whatever it is, right? Around, oh, you're not successful enough in your career.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned something to me before we hit record, and I want to talk about this because it's awesome. Tell us about how you use anchor thoughts, the anchor
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yes. So this is a concept that really like I came up with because I needed it. And then I've been able to teach it and help, serve other women. So whenever I'm in what I call the spin, right? And so like that's that idea of getting into that negative thought patterning, that negative thought bias, and having a hard time getting out. And typically, the reason I call it the spin is that, at least in my experience, like the more I keep going, the deeper the spin, the harsher the thoughts, the faster that spin goes. And so I wanted a concept, like something that grounded me back into the truth, which is I am love, I am okay, nothing is wrong, like everything's okay. And so I came up with this idea of anchor thoughts. And so the idea is you identify a thought, like you have it ready to go, it's there. And this thought, the anchor thought, brings you back to a time you feel connected to your power. You feel accomplished. You feel confident in your abilities and in yourself. And it just kind of quickly brings you back to like, wait, I am this person. Like, I am this person rooted in power and confidence, and I can do this. And I've been here before, right? So, for example, one of mine is I conquered a C-section. That whole story is a long one, but it's not what I wanted originally. It's not what went planned, yada yada. It's not what how I dreamed it to be. And I did it anyway, and I conquered the fear, and I thrived through it, and I stayed calm, and I stayed present, and I was there.
Hmm.
Like that, nothing makes me feel more powerful than thinking about what our bodies are capable of doing, right?
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
that brings me back to that space, that power, that how I just handled that day so beautifully and so calmly. So it's like, what's yours, right? Think about a time, a memory, an experience where you felt really proud, really confident, really in your power. And it doesn't have to feel big. Keep
Hmm.
that in mind, right? It can feel tiny, but it's bringing you back to
Your
that.
anchor that brings
Yeah.
you back to home.
Yes.
Oh, so good. So another reason to slow down, journal, or talk about this. What can our anchors be when inevitably life is challenging or we mess up, that we come back to and remind ourselves of who we are, what we've accomplished. Um, and I just love that your connection to coming back to um, confidence and yeah, feeling grounded.
Yeah.
So, what are a couple things that you do in addition to what you've shared? What are a couple things that you do to feel good as an ambitious working mom?
So I will say this has been such a journey for me, Tia, to think about what I do on a regular basis that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And I'll share quick context. Like I had gotten to a place in my life a little while ago where even the things that were quote unquote self-care or supposed to make me feel good were just feeling blah. and mundane. And I just couldn't get
Like
myself to
almost like you're just checking the box, but it's
that.
like
Yes, it was
interesting.
just
Okay.
checking the box. Like things weren't lighting up or feeling good, right? And
Yep.
so I slowed down and I got kind of inquisitive and I got gently curious with myself and I started to kind of figure out what was going on. And a lot of what was missing was play and joy and
Mm,
experiment. And I'll be super honest with you. The traditional things you find on chat or Google about play like weren't resonating with me. I didn't want to take up painting. I didn't want to go play at the park. Like
yeah.
those, they just weren't resonating with
Yeah.
me. And so I was
Right.
like, what would work for me? And this idea of experimenting, like who I am as at my core, so I'm somebody who just goes for things and I say yes and I just kind of decide on a whim. And inevitably with being a parent and being a partner and owning a business, like those things are easy to get rid of as we grow.
Yeah.
So I started experimenting anyway, and I started playing with experimentation. What would it feel like to go out of my comfort zone today? What would it feel like to go sit with a different mom group in the football stands at my son's football game? What would it feel like to strike up a conversation with somebody at the coffee shop I just found? I started getting a little bit more experimental. What would it feel
Out
to
of just your regular routine, because that's what we do
Yes,
as humans.
exactly. Because I wasn't looking to add a whole, hour routine onto my day. I was looking to
Right.
meet myself where I was.
I love that.
Things shifted. What would it feel like to call a friend who I haven't thought of in months, or I haven't spoken to in months, but she's been on my mind or he's been on my mind, and I
Right.
did that.
Right.
And so these things have really helped me feel back to like kind of just the essence of who I am, which is I am loud, I am a big personality, I am a connector, I love being with people. So I got connected back to some of those things. So experimenting, um,
And
in
I'm hearing just what there's a through line of human connection,
yeah, absolutely.
which is the number one predictor of happiness, right? The reaching out or the talking at the coffee shop, like, and it's getting less and less. So that is so, so good. I love it. One of my members in the Feel Good Club has started dancing again, and she
Whoa.
used to dance all the time. And like, man, I'm looking at her video, I'm like, oh, and I'm like, great. And she's just making a space for it. And it's like figuring out like what is it for you? And it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be an hour. Um, so I love that. Now you have an amazing gift for the listeners. Can you tell us about that and share the link?
Of course. So, this gift came from my own experience with experimenting. And I was thinking about what I wanted to offer next. And I've been playing with experimentation in my own work a lot, and of course, in my own life. So I created and am offering a 5-day experiment challenge. So each day, it's a little workbook. Each day will have a new experiment for you to give a try to. Again, just given what I just shared, it'll be meet you where you are style. It'll be something that you can pick that'll take 10 minutes or less a day. It'll
Yeah.
just give you an idea of just kind of dipping your toe into something different and expanding your awareness a little bit differently through experimentation. So
Uh,
you can find it at stacynadeau.com/feel good. And let me know what you think. I love hearing feedback of, people's experiences. So I'd love to hear from you
Oh,
too.
well, I can't wait to try it, and I'll definitely share feedback. And where can people find you and follow you if they want to learn more?
Yes. So stacynadeau.com is always a good place to be. And then I think Instagram's probably my most used outlet after that. And my handle there is Stacy L as in Lynn Nadeau. And yeah, I work to share inspiring stuff, but I also work to just share relatable stuff. So that's where you can find me there.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the Feel Good Club show, and I hope to have you back in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tia.
Thank you for joining me on the Feel Good Club show. I hope today's episode left you feeling inspired and equipped to take on your day with confidence, self-love, and joy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow ambitious working moms. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. We're all here to support each other in feeling good and living our best lives. Until next time, take care and be hopeful. And remember, prioritize your happiness.